Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth, and in this video I'm going to be discussing one of the more frequently asked questions that I see coming up time and time again in all the different wedding and bridal Facebook groups that I'm a part of, and that is, should I book a wedding videographer? Is it worth it, or will I regret not having a wedding videographer? What I'm going to do is explain why I love wedding videography, and hopefully by listening to the reasons why I love wedding videography, you may find that, yeah, do you know what, that sounds like that would add value, that would be worth it, that is worth the extra money. Or maybe you go, actually, do you know, I don't think it's worth it for me. And either way is absolutely fine. I'm not here to tell you that you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying why I love it, in the hopes that it will help you figure out if it's something that you would be interested in. So, full disclaimer, I am a wedding videographer and photographer, so yeah, my opinion is kind of biased, but actually the reasons that I love wedding videography really comes from my own personal experience as a daughter of a married couple who don't have a wedding video, and as a bride-to-be myself. So I get married in October this year. Exciting times. So first of all, I just want to state that in my opinion, I don't think that wedding videography replaces photography or vice versa. Although they're very similar mediums, they offer you very different viewing experiences, and they're very different in the way that they allow you to relive your memories and your wedding day. And you have to decide for yourself whether or not you feel that they're different enough for you to warrant having both, or one or the other. So really the easiest way for me to explain the differences between them is to tell you about my parents' wedding album, their photo album. So my parents have this teeny weeny little wedding album, and every now and then, every few years, it will crop up because my parents are either moving house or my dad's decluttered, and it's just sprung out of nowhere again. And what I love about the album is how tangible it is. Like, I'm sorry if I keep doing this with my fingers, but it's a physical thing that you can hold on to, and you can take your time flicking through, and you can kind of, you know, if you want to be really, you know, weird like me, I guess, you kind of touch the photos, and there's a really nice connection that you get by having that tangible item in your hand that you can touch and feel and admire. And that's obviously something that you can't do with wedding films. You know, yes, you can have like a USB and a keepsake box or a DVD, but it's not quite the same experience. In my opinion, you may find that you get that same emotional connection holding on to, you know, the DVD of your wedding video or the USB, but for me, that's not one of the strengths of wedding films. It's the strength of wedding photography is, you know, you can print photos, you can blow them up onto massive canvases, you can have them really small, they can be digital on your phone. Whereas with video, at least, you know, in my company, I only do digital delivery. You know, if clients want to put them on USBs, that's absolutely fine. But for me, they are, you know, to be viewed on televisions and larger screens or mobile phones, but it's a digital medium in my opinion. Again, other people may disagree. This video is just how I feel about wedding videography and photography. However, what those printed photos or the digital photos can't give you is the audio of the day. And for me, this is the number one thing that I love about wedding videography. Whether it's a highlights film or the full ceremony and speeches, it's the sound, it's the audio from the day. And when I say audio, I don't just mean the ceremony and speeches, although, you know, they are arguably the most important parts of the audio. But I've recently really gotten into including snippets of birdsong from morning preparations, or, you know, the bride giggling with her bridesmaids, the boys clinking the glasses as they do a toast before they head out for the ceremony, people cheering and clapping and laughing. It's everything. It's all the other sounds from the day, and that is for me, the best thing about wedding films. It's being able to hear as well as see the sights and sounds of the day. And, you know, when I was at university, they really drilled it into us that audio is 50% of a film. You know, I think a lot of the time we get so caught up in the visuals, in the pretty visuals, that we kind of forget about the audio. And it's really funny because you won't notice good sound design, you won't notice the music necessarily because it's like a subconscious thing, but that music and that sound really draws the emotion out of the visuals on the screen, and you will notice if the audio is bad. That's poor sound engineers. They never get credit where credit's due, but if anything sounds funny, it's the first thing that's pointed out. So going back to my parents' wedding album, I actually asked my mum, it must have been a few months ago, and I asked her again recently, you know, if she could remember who gave speeches and what was said. And she, obviously, my dad gave a speech, and her stepdad, my step-grandfather, gave a speech, but she couldn't for the life of her remember what was said, and neither could my dad. And it was such a shame that they couldn't remember it. And it was one of those moments where that would have been such a lovely thing to have, to be able to show friends and family and to be able to listen back to what was said. Yes, 30 years ago when my parents got married, wedding films definitely weren't as popular as they are today, and they certainly weren't done in a similar way. But yeah, audio for me, it's just a super, super important, amazing thing. And like I said, you know, images are just, there's no audio to an image. However, going back to a positive of photography, one of the main differences and one of the reasons that I absolutely love photography, and I'm just as passionate about it as I am film, is, you know, with photography and the tangible aspect of it, you can take as long or as short as you like looking through those photos. You could spend a few seconds, a few minutes, maybe hours just looking at one image, absorbing all the little details that happened in that one moment. You know, bearing in mind, you know, a photo is literally a fraction of a second. Obviously, good photojournalists, if you like, or good wedding photographers, they can really tell a story in an album, much like a wedding video. But for me, I love taking my time looking at photos, looking at the little details. And if you take, for example, a wedding speech, let's say the best man is giving a speech. In an image, you can really take your time admiring what's going on. You know, maybe the groom is hanging his head in shame, the bride's wetting herself with laughter, everybody else on the top table's kind of awkwardly laughing, and the best man is looking very smug. Clearly, he's probably just delivered a really funny or embarrassing story about the groom. And with a photograph, you can really take your time looking at those details, looking at, you know, people's faces and what was around. But what a photo doesn't give you is the context of that. What were they laughing about? What was said? Whereas with a wedding film, obviously with the audio included, you know, you get that context, you get the story, you can hear people laughing. So even just from a practical standpoint, having a copy of your speeches or the ceremony, it's a nice keepsake to have, because, you know, we forget so easily. Even I find that during a speech, you know, while I'm filming, I'll be like, that was a really funny thing, I definitely want to include that in the highlights film or the feature film. And then I'll get back, and by the time I've backed up all the footage, I'm like, I know he said something funny, but I can't quite remember exactly what it is. And a lot of the times I will completely re-listen to a set of speeches just to find that one moment and to make sure that I haven't missed out on any other funny moments or sweet moments or romantic moments that I could include in the feature or highlights film. So I hope that kind of makes sense on how they are different. They're not, like I said, one is not necessarily better than the other. They're just different ways to relive your wedding day. I just think that a well-crafted wedding film, just like any other movie, can take you on an emotional journey. And what's amazing is that you can watch someone else's wedding video, someone that you've never met before, and almost feel like you know them. And in fact, what I'll do is I will create a playlist on YouTube of my top 10 wedding films that I love and that highlight the reasons that I love wedding films so much. So if you're on Facebook, I'll include a link to that playlist in the description or the comments somewhere, and same again for YouTube, but you can always go to my channel and look at my playlists as well. So I'm going to very briefly talk about potential cons of hiring a wedding videographer. And the first one is obviously it's an extra cost. So you have to consider whether or not you have the budget for it, whether or not you even want to spend the money on it. Hopefully, if you feel that actually, the reasons that I love a wedding video is also a reason that you would love a wedding video, then I do think that videographers are absolutely worth their weight in gold. Obviously, there's a broad spectrum of prices and different videographers offer different things. But generally speaking, yes, I absolutely think that wedding videographers are worth spending the money on if you have the budget for it. But also in hiring a videographer, it means that there are going to be more people around you on your wedding day. This may not even be an issue for some people, but other people, especially if you're a bit camera shy, or maybe you're having a very intimate wedding, having 1 or 2 photographers and 1 or 2 videographers, obviously that's 4 people with cameras around you, maybe that's a bit much. And then finally, you actually have to go out and find the videographer. So it's more time pre-wedding planning and inquiring and having consultations with. I don't necessarily see that as a con, but it is going to take up more of your time. So that is something to consider. So in my opinion, if you have the budget for it and you feel that a wedding film is something that you will get a lot of value out of, if you feel that actually having a record of your speeches, having a record of your ceremony, or having a nice highlights film that you can share with your friends and family is to give them a little snippet of the day, so to speak, is something that you will find value in, then absolutely go for it. But also don't feel as though you have to book a videographer. Hopefully it goes without saying that you don't feel pressured to book anything or to have any particular thing at your wedding just because other people say so or because it's traditional. If you want to get married in a hot pink suit, you get married in a hot pink suit. If you don't want a wedding cake, don't have a wedding cake. If you don't want a photographer but you do want a videographer, or vice versa, whatever, that is fine. It's your wedding and you should do it the way you want to do it. All I'm trying to do with this video is express why I love wedding videography, because I don't think people necessarily would know the benefits of having one because it's not something that we purchase on a regular basis. So I hope you guys found this video useful. I'm sorry I'm a little bit rambly. I didn't really script this out properly. I'm just kind of spitballing. But if you did find it useful, I'd really appreciate it if you would give this video a like to let me know. And yeah, if you're interested in more content like this, I have 2 videos in the pipeline at the minute. One all about how to find and book your perfect wedding photographer and videographer. So what is the overall process of finding someone, because that can be quite overwhelming. And the other video is talking all about how to find a photographer or a videographer on a budget. And I'm specifically looking at from £0 up to £1,000. So if you think that those videos would come in handy and that you would be interested to hear what I have to say on those topics, then please consider subscribing. So again, thank you so much for watching, especially if you've made it all the way to the end of this video. I really, really appreciate you being here. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.